Welcome to another edition of Stand Alone, where we go from being ordinary to extraordinary. We talk about leadership a lot, and for me, just bringing leaders into the space that are really leading the way in their sector is incredibly important because I believe how we get better as human beings is seeking the best knowledge. And so we have to tap into people that are really the experts at what they do. And I have a special guest for us today. We have Dr. Eric Cole. So, Dr. Eric Cole is a renowned cybersecurity expert, with 30 years of experience in this industry. And you've worked with some prominent people like the presidents of the United States, Bill Gates, the Melinda Gates Foundation. You've also been a hacker for the CIA, which I think is incredible. I've been fortunate to work with some people that have some history with the CIA. I do some stuff with human trafficking, which is really, important to me, just bringing awareness to that sector. And what I wanted to bring you in today to just talk about something that we don't talk enough about, which is just, how vulnerable are we in the world of what you call cybersecurity, but what really is cyberspace. This is a world that we are really transacting in on a daily basis, a lot more than ever before. Some of us think, we walk around with a phone in our hands and we don't understand it. It's actually a computer, it's a computing device. And so I just want to say thank you for being here today as we unpack and unravel your expertise. You also have just a great business mindset, right? You're a visionary, you're an advisor for many, many large organizations, but you've also exited and formed companies as an entrepreneur. So bringing that advice to our conversation today too is incredibly important because I can't imagine how much effort entrepreneurs put into building their business, and then it could be wiped away from us if we don't put the proper measures of securing all that we're building along the way. So I think this is an important conversation. And the benefit of you conversing with me is I have no knowledge of this except what you've written. So we can go back to an elementary level
Yep.
to explain this to people that are entrepreneurs that are building and putting all this effort into building, 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 but you still have to protect. You still have to put infrastructure around to protect all that you're building. So I just want to say thank you for being here, Dr. Eric Cole, and thank you for your expertise. And if we can start to unravel, first question for you, when you say in your book, which you wrote, cyber crisis, I just want to know, number one, what is the crisis? And why do we have to see ourselves as a target and not be naive, just thinking that I'll be fine, I don't have to worry about this?
Yeah, so the crisis is cyber technology, the internet, computers is relatively new. Like you go back when I started my career at the CIA in 1990, that was before the World Wide Web. The World Wide Web didn't come out until 1992. Google wasn't formed until 1997. The iPhone that we rely on today and Android, those didn't come out until 2008. So this is all relatively new and we've adopted it and it became part of our life, but no one trained us on security. No one trained us on the dangers. No one trained us on the issues. Imagine raising a kid and never teaching them about crossing a road, never teaching them about looking both ways, never teaching them about stranger danger. And that's pretty much what has happened with technology is we've adopted into our lives. Most people spend anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a day online. This cell phone never leaves your side. People talk about, oh, I don't want to put a chip in me and chipping technology and tracking. The reality is every one of us has a chip right next to us because this stays with us. We sleep with it. We eat with it. We do everything with it. And the attackers have realized cybercrime pays, and we are essentially now at war. China, Russia, North Korea, Iran are all attacking us on a regular basis, and we don't realize it, and we're not paying attention. And most people are shocked to hear, but last year, US citizens lost over $50 billion to cybercrime. That's more than some third world countries' entire gross revenue. So like there's a crisis going on and we're just not aware of how bad it is because it's slowly draining money. It's slowly stealing our information. And because it's not visible and coming at us super strong, most of us are not aware it's happening.
Yeah, this is powerful, right? So I want to think like I'm just an average person. How is this going to affect me? Like when you say that number, $50 billion in cyber crime, I want you to break this down. What are the crimes that are actually happening? How do these criminals get paid? And so like first us understanding that so we can understand like why we do have to protect ourselves instead of being vulnerable. And then actually, I think what a lot of us do out of ignorance is we weaken a system because we're all these like entrance ways for these criminals to come into a system. For instance, if I hire someone and they're tapping into my system at work, if they're naive, if they're not careful, if I'm not aware of this, like I've opened a gateway for a weakness point, a point of weakness. So what is cybercrime? How do these criminals get paid so that we can understand as business owners, as people in business transacting, what we have to be aware of?
Yeah, so it's a huge paradigm shift because in the physical world, most criminals go after high profile individuals. If I'm going to go in and break into somebody's house, I'm physically going to break into a house. I'm not going to break in to a house that's in a low income neighborhood. I'm going to break into a very high end, rich millionaire or billionaire's house. If I'm going to kidnap somebody and hold them ransom, I'm going to kidnap somebody who's worth a ton of money and who's going to pay large amounts. So most of us have been trained that, hey, I'm not really, no one's going to rob me. No one's going to kidnap me. No one's going to cause physical crimes against me because in those areas, they're targeting high profile individuals. But the reality in cyberspace, why would somebody go after a billionaire who has 15 people like me watching, protecting, and securing them when they can go after people like you, Sabrina, and me and others, where we don't have dedicated cybersecurity team. We don't think we're a target. And the cybercrime is what we call skimming attacks. They're not going in and going to wipe out your entire bank account. Because if somebody went in and tried to take $10,000 from your bank account, you would notice the alerts would go off, you'd get alarms. But if you went to a restaurant and your meal was $50 and you left a $10 tip, so the total bill was $60, if that was rung up as $62 instead of $60, the average person would not catch that 30 days later. Most people are not watching their credit cards very closely. So what's happening is attackers are breaking in and they're stealing $2 to $3 from every one of us every couple of days. Now, $8, $10 a month doesn't seem like a lot, but that adds up to hundreds of dollars a year, thousands of dollars over 10 years. And you do that over millions of people, and that number adds up to billions of dollars very, very quickly. So when we're talking about cybercrime, it is businesses. One of the groups that we track, I actually know very well, is the Russian Business Network, RBN. This is a company. They're bringing in about $800 million a year. They have 300 employees. These employees have benefits, have salaries, and their entire business is targeting Americans, stealing money from their accounts, stealing money from their banks, stealing money from their retirement. And the problem is, it's not illegal in Russia to do this. We don't have extradition treaties, and there's nothing we can do about it. So because there's no universal global cyber laws, it's basically a crime that pays. It's a crime that it's not illegal, and there's no way to shut it down. So we need to recognize that it's happening. And what we need to start doing is paying more attention and start locking down, limiting information, start taking cybersecurity seriously. Because as you said, I have seen so many companies, entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur. I sort of call I'm a geek with a personality. Right? I'm a geek that likes to start businesses. So I have lots of friends. I had a friend just the other day. He has a small medical practice. He's bringing in about $8 million a year. He has about 3 people on his staff. He is in the community. He was very well established. He was doing extremely well. He had about 10 years to go before retirement. He suffered a data breach where all of his patients' information was made public. He was embarrassed in the community.
Wow.
Nobody trusted him because people had their identity stolen. People had their bank accounts targeted because of his poor security. And he's now out of business. He's now a 45-year-old that has no respect in the community. He's lost most of his friends. He's lost his business, and he's lost his reputation, all because some evil person decided to target him. He was never trained, so it's not his fault. He was never trained. He was never made aware of security practices. He had a vulnerable server that some 22-year-old, not picking on anybody, set up. They didn't know they were supposed to patch it. They didn't know they were supposed to secure it and lock it down, and basically not only destroyed his career, but in some essence ruined his life for at least 12 to 18 months. So this is the problem we're dealing with, is people think they're fine and safe. But if we don't start being proactive and start locking down our servers, locking down our accounts, you could wake up one day and have your entire life destroyed. Or, as I saw in another case, I got a phone call 3 weeks ago where one of my good friends, his daughter, was basically kicked out of college because somebody went in and did deep fake pictures of her in very incriminating circumstances. And the school actually said, you violated our policy, and kicked her out of school when the pictures were fake. The pictures were targeted. It was somebody that didn't like her. They were doing cyberbullying. And now basically his daughter's life is on hold. She is dealing with major legal issues. And these types of things, unfortunately, are not one-offs. They are happening all the time. And it is just frustrating beyond belief that these adversaries are thinking they can get away with it and they can target us because we're just not aware of how bad the problem really is.
Wow. So I'm thinking to myself, because when I go to a restaurant, and when people always ask me like, do you want your receipt? I always get my receipt. When I go through my credit card bill, I go through, and I have so many items, but I go through every item and make sure that things add up, and make sure that I'm doing that baseline accounting. And people would think like, and I love that you said this, because sometimes I'm doing this and I'm like, am I a nut job? Am I like putting too much attention into this? But if I was to, do crime, or wreak havoc on someone, I would just pay attention to someone who doesn't pay attention. And so like for me, this awareness of like where our money is going is so incredibly important, because and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think for a lot of companies, and what you said there with the doctor, like the money is in the data. The money is in the customer information. And when you're a business and you are reckless with people's information, this is a gateway for people to wreak havoc on you. So could you talk about this? Because as a business owner, when you say like cybersecurity is your responsibility, at the end of your book, you give like the top 10. And I think that's incredibly important, because you also say that security is not turned on by default. What does that mean? And why do we have to be so proactive as a consumer, but then on a different level as a business owner? Why do I have to be hyper aware of like the transactions that are happening, the information that I am responsible for collecting? Um, and then if you can also tie this in to understanding, for people to understand, everything that you are taking a picture of, everything that you are writing out to people, this is not getting deleted. You may delete it, it's not getting deleted.
Yeah.
It's out there
Yeah.
in the world. Someone can put their hands on it. You could have deleted it from your phone, doesn't mean it's deleted. Can you elaborate on this for people to understand?
Yeah. So I'll start with the end and then I'll work my way forward because there's a couple pieces to that question. So
Yeah.
once again, this is an area that things we would never do in the real world, we do in cyberspace and think it's okay. Nobody, nobody in the real world would take pictures of their kids and give them to strangers. You would not have a picture of your kid that has their name, their age, their school printed out and just start handing it to random strangers. But guess what? If you have a public social media site, which most people do, that's exactly what you're doing. You are basically making it easy for people to target your kids. You're making it easy for people to target you. Why in the world? And this is where it's like people think I'm nuts when I say this, but why in the world would you have a public account on social media that any crazy perverted sicko can have access to, and you're putting pictures of your family, your vacation, your home, their school, I mean, this is just absurd how we thought what is normal on the internet is just such bad practice. If we're going to post personal pictures on social media, why isn't your account private? Why aren't you limiting it to only your friends? Why are you letting anyone in the world target you and target your family? So we just need to step back and rethink our entire strategy. How we're approaching social media is insane. I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of data and information that people put on social media, and they don't realize that they're putting their family and they're putting their kids at risk. And then back to your other question, most companies, most individuals, most business owners think cybersecurity is somebody else's problem. Like most small businesses, they don't run their own servers. So they might use Amazon Web Services. They might use Microsoft Office 365. They might use Google Office, Google Docs, Google Gmail. Well, here's the reality. Those companies have a lot of security baked in, but because people view it as an inconvenience and people view it as a hindrance, they turn it off. So it's actually not turned on. And I'll just give you a few simple examples. One that would stop at least 75% of most of the crimes and most of the identity theft that's out there today is two-factor authentication. And you've probably seen it. It's on some accounts. Most people don't have it turned on for everything, but it's where you go in and you type in your username and password, and then you get a PIN text to your phone, and you have to enter that manually into the system. Now, most people come up to you and go, Eric, that's an inconvenience. That's an annoyance that I have to go in and I have to enter that code every time. And my response back is, you know what's an annoyance? If your identity is stolen. You know what's an annoyance? If your company is put out of business. You know what's an annoyance? If your reputation is entirely destroyed. So the reality is, do you spend 3 seconds being inconvenienced and having good security, or do you ignore it and then for 6, 9, or 12 months, your entire life is put on hold because your identity has been stolen or taken? And then another one that you've mentioned with the credit cards, and I just want to applaud you, Sabrina, because you are the unicorn. Most people don't check their credit card bills. Most people don't save their credit card. You look at a restaurant, watch when people go over and they pay their bill and they go, would you like a copy of your receipt? Most people say no.
I know.
Most people do not know the amounts. So here's what I do. I don't like paper. I don't like printed receipts. But on all of my credit cards, whenever I use my credit card, I get a text that says there was just a transaction for $79.99 at this restaurant. So now what I do is when I pay that bill at that restaurant and it's $79.99, I take my phone out and I get a text and I cross-verify that the amounts are correct. Now, here's the crazy part. I've been doing this for a couple of years, multiple times a month. Not once, not twice, multiple times a month, the amounts are wrong. There's actually fraud, or there's transactions, or I'll be sitting at home and I'll get a text going, there was a $3.99 charge at the local gas station. Most people, if they use a gas station or they get coffee or Starbucks every morning, if there was an extra charge, they wouldn't notice it. But now if I'm getting a text notification that says, hey, there was a $3.99 charge and I'm sitting at home, I immediately know it's fraud. I can report it and deny it. So just having awareness, just getting notifications every time you use your credit card. Now, this one I love because people are like, but Eric, you don't know how much I use my credit card. I'm going to be getting alerts all the time. And I'm like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't use your credit card that much. What I find is cybersecurity awareness, people then get aware of, I'm spending a lot of money that I didn't realize, and they actually start spending less and doing it. So cybersecurity can actually be an enabler, but you have to just recognize that you need to start doing things differently. You need to start having transparency in your life. You need to start having notifications and being aware of what's happening. This idea that you can charge amounts or log into accounts and you don't know when you log in is so dangerous. You need to start having awareness and get notifications of transactions, alerts, so you realize what is legit and what's not legit.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, especially in this world today where everything is a swipe, and they talk about like how can we make the ease of transacting be even easier and easier. I think you have to be hyper aware that easier isn't always better, and
Nope.
like there's a reason why they want it to be easier, so it's
Yep.
like out of mind and you're just doing things and not thinking about it. And so for me, what leadership is turning your brain on. It is being aware. How do you then deal with people that say like this, this is too much. Like I have better and more important things to handle, to take care of. Is the counter argument just, yeah, but how inconvenient would it be if your identity got stolen? Like, how do you encourage people to put more time and awareness into what they're doing on a daily basis instead of waiting too long or being reactive when something bad happens?
Yeah, so the way I run my life, the way I run all my businesses, all I've had many successful exits is on a simple principle. Let data drive decisions, not emotions. So if I go up to people like many cybersecurity people do, and I'm like, it's bad, you're going to be targeted, the sky's falling, they ignore me. But if I go then with real data,
Mhm.
I'll give you the FBI reports. I'll show you the actual FBI reports, and the FBI reports from 2024 will show you that if we take the average, every American is losing $3 a day to cybercrime. That's the average. If you take the billions of dollars across all the citizens, I've done all the math. I can show it to you. It's not made up. It's real numbers. And then you go in and look at the probability of you being a victim and you losing anywhere from $20,000 to $80,000 is over 70% in 2025. So to me, this is real data. This is not made up. This is not fictional. So here's the reality. You really have three choices. One, simplify your life. One of my best pieces of advice is the biggest target are smartphones, or as you said, computers that we carry around with us. Do you realize when you buy an iPhone or an Android out of the box, they're secure? Kudos to Apple, kudos to Android, kudos to all those phone makers. These devices out of the box are very, very secure. What do? We take our iPhone and within minutes, days, or weeks, we download hundreds of apps, free apps. Do you realize free is not free? Do you realize a free app, in order for a free app to work, you have to give it access to your location? You have to give it access to your camera and your microphone. Did you ever wonder why your free app for your favorite store or your favorite restaurant, when you get near it, pops up messages? It's because it's tracking your location. I love doing this when I do keynotes. I ask for a volunteer and I ask, I'm going to do something. You have to be okay with it. And they agree. And I take their phone, I display it on the screen with their permission. I go to location tracking, which anybody can see, and we look at all the apps that are tracking their location. And I've never, ever had a situation where somebody wasn't appalled. They were like, oh, I had no clue. We had no clue all these apps are tracking my location. And here's the reality. Most of the apps we're not even using. So
Yeah.
here's what I do. I live my entire life on 10 apps. If there's a new app that I want to download, guess what? It replaces an existing one. So I challenge you. What if you got rid of every app you haven't used in 30 days? What if you deleted it off your phone? What if you simplified? Because here's the reality. If you don't have the app, you're not at risk. So the first trick is simplify your life so you don't have to have complexity.
So just a question about that. If I delete an app on my phone, have they captured information that goes with that app, or how do I protect myself to make sure that I can take my information when I delete that app so they don't have access to it anymore?
Here's the problem. If you have an app on your phone that you've installed,
Mm.
you've agreed every app, and people don't realize this, every app that you install, you agree to the terms and conditions. People don't even realize it anymore. When you install a new app, pay careful attention. There's a screen that pops up that saying, do you agree? And
Yeah.
we all click, I agree. We even forget we do it. Well, unfortunately, what you just agreed to was they can track all your data and store it on their servers. So the reality is, if you have an app on your phone, some of the damage is done. So they already have your past historical data. But if you
What does that
delete,
mean, past historical data? What are they accessing? What does that mean?
so depending on the app, that they go in and they could have location tracking. So
Okay.
they can know where you go, what you do, that they can track like what stores you go to, what you buy, and things along those lines. The good news is most of them, they don't tie it to you. They just tie it to a person. So your data is there, but it's not directly tied to you. But the good news is once you delete the app, they can't track you anymore. They can't monitor you. They can't do any long-term harm. So the benefit is by getting those apps off your phone, you're preventing long-term damage to what's going on. Then if you don't want to simplify your life, you do want to use those apps, then you have to decide, do I turn on the security and get used to a little inconvenience, or do I not have the security and I get into a bad accident? Because the reality is driving a car is not simple. I mean, we put on a seatbelt, we put on a blinker, we look in a mirror, we do all those things, but we've done it for so long that we don't even realize the inconvenience. The problem is on the information superhighway, we're driving cars with no seatbelts, no mirrors, no anti-lock brakes, no airbags, and we just assume that was normal. So now we're coming in and we're saying, you need to put on a seatbelt. You need to look in the mirrors. You need to install airbags, and everyone's viewing it as an inconvenience. But what they don't realize is the inconvenience is so much easier than the accidents or damages that are going to happen if we don't start embracing and taking cybersecurity seriously.
Yeah. It's really funny because it's not funny. It's very serious. Just you think about seatbelts and all this stuff, and you never really understand what it can do if unless you're like an ER doctor or unless you're like a nurse in an ER and you see all the people coming in, like those people are not thinking about should I wear my seatbelt or not. They're like they've seen the damage of what has ensued when someone gets into an accident and they're not wearing their seatbelt. So it's just a reminder that we need, and I think that This is what this conversation is doing. It's a reminder from someone, yourself, who has seen the damage that has been ensued on people that do not take these necessary precautions. I want to ask you about photographs because we're getting more and more visual as a society, and we're interchanging a lot of videos, photographs. You've already said about like someone getting those fake videos made. Well, in order to make fake videos, they needed some real videos, they needed some real pictures.
Yeah.
So could you explain? This is a great conversation
Yeah.
for me also. What are the dangers of sharing our pictures, videos with people on social media? How could that be used against us?
So we have to remember, by default, our information and our data is private. Nobody knows my social security number. Nobody knows my driver's license. Nobody knows what I look like because I'm protecting and controlling that information. And if we go back to the 70s or the 80s, before computers, before smartphones, we were not going out handing out pictures to everybody. We were not going in and posting our pictures on outsides of buildings. We were not giving it to the public. We were not telling everybody what we're doing. We were not telling everybody where we're going on vacation. And the analogy I give is that in 1980, if a stranger walked up to you and said, "Hey, can you tell me when you're going on vacation? Can you tell me where you live? And oh, by the way, can I take a picture of you and your family?" You would be like, "No way."
Yeah.
Like you would look for police, you would call 911, you would probably be really scared, you would probably feel very threatened, and you'd be like, "No way, get away from me," right? You would be very, very threatened by that. Yet on the internet today, that's what we're doing. We're giving away our vacation. Why in the world would you publicly, to people you don't know, people you've never met in your life, would you go in and say, "Tomorrow, I'm leaving for vacation for the Bahamas for 2 weeks. And oh, by the way, if you go back with your social media profile, I know where you live because you've posted pictures." And here's the part. Do you realize pictures that you post from your phone, if you go and look at the properties, it actually has the geolocation data. It actually has the latitude and longitude of where you live. So I can take a picture of you and your family on a holiday outside your house or your kid's prom, and I can get your exact location. So I know where you live. I know what your family looks like. And now you've told me you're going on vacation for 2 weeks. That is insane. Like, why are we giving away our privacy? Why are we giving our data away? But the reality is we were just never trained on the dangers, and we just have to start being a lot more careful. And it's super simple. If you want to post information on social media, make it private. Does the world need to know what you're doing and where your family is? No, only your friends. So why isn't your profile private? What I do is I'm a business person. My brand is important. I have a big brand and social media following. You will never find a picture of my kids. You will never find anything personal. All of my social media accounts are business. I
Okay,
know.
wait. So
Okay.
let's dig into this.
Okay.
Because I know a lot of really great marketers, and people always say that we don't follow a business, we follow a person. And so the more personable you are, the more of a following you can generate. And so if you go to your page and it's just business stuff, like that's not intriguing to me. What makes you grow a following is people knowing stuff personally about you. So how do you grow the largest number of following while still protecting what is sacred?
So to me, I believe I can let people know who I am and what I do without putting my family at risk.
Okay.
So if you go in and follow me online, You'll see me at the gym working out. You'll see the foods that I eat. You'll see that I'm into health. You'll see that I'm big into mindset. Once in a while, I'm not big into the fancy stuff. I mean, once in a while, you might see me in one of my cars, or you might see me at my office. My office is a public location. People know where it is. I advertise it. So you are still getting to know Eric. You are still getting to know who I am and what I do, but I'm doing it in a safe way where I'm not putting my family or my personal information at risk or exposure. I look at it as, if you knew my kids and knew what they did, what is the value or benefit versus what is the risk? It doesn't
Yeah.
really add a lot of value to my brand. I talk about my kids. I'm so proud of my kids. I'm so proud of my children. I mean, my one son is in business, one's in nursing school, one's doing cybersecurity. So I'm proud of my kids. I tell you what they do, but guess what? I'm not going to tell you where they go to school. I'm not going to tell you where they graduated from. I'm not going to give you pictures of them so you can target them. So people just have to realize you can still be very personable. People can get to know you. People can fall in love with you and follow you without going over the line, with setting clear boundaries of knowing what is enough and what's not too much information. And today, we're just under this mindset that more is better. And we just flood the market with everything, not realizing the benefit is low and the risk is high.
Yeah, I have one word that's coming to my mind, and it's just compromised. It's just
Yeah.
like, uh, so I just appreciate this conversation. And, I think also too, for a younger generation, this is something I grapple with a lot when you're dealing with, I can only speak for females because I am a female. I know that, I'm pretty sure men feel the same way too, and boys, but when you're a younger girl and you are growing up in today's world, my heart like pains for them, because when there's this world that's created that is so fake, that is so superficial, which is, like the world of computers and social media and all this, cyberspace, protecting people to understand and know their value and know their worth and what is real is more important than ever before. And so I think what you're doing is just making people be hyper aware so that you're not vulnerable, so that you're not compromised. And one thing as parents, what I'm getting from this conversation is it's my job to protect my children, not to compromise them. And so the more aware I am of this, the better it is. What can you do, especially for youth, in today's world that is just, this is all they know. Like they don't even know a different world of putting this away and detaching from it. How do you prepare them differently so that they can be aware of not jeopardizing themselves, not becoming a target? Are there things that are more catered towards that group of people? Because if you told me like I couldn't use my phone for a day, I'd be like, okay, great. This is awesome. I like this. I think some people would lose their minds.
Yeah. Yeah. So the way I look at it is that I'm different from a lot of cyber folks is I'm about balance. I'm not about, we're not going to go Amish. Right? We're not giving up tech. I mean, trust me, there's days where like you have no idea the phone calls I get and the stuff that I see and the horrors that I have. And there's days where I look at my friends and I'm like, I'm going to Pennsylvania becoming Amish. Like no tech, no sales, but that's not realistic. So it's all about balance. But you nailed it. The biggest thing we can do as parents is start putting structure around the phone and making them realize their phone is not their life.
Yeah.
Their life is physical, not digital. So two things. And I know this sounds crazy, but I tell you, you do these two things as a parent and you will have different kids in 30 days. Here's the two things. First, cell phones, technology, iPads, don't go in the bedroom. You have a charging station in the kitchen, and I do this too. At 8 p.m. at night, everybody's cell phones go in the charging station in the kitchen. We then go in the living room and we play a game. We help with homework. We watch TV. We all go to bed and our cell phones stay in the kitchen. You know how many kids are in bed with their cell phones, monitoring their cell phones, tracking their cell phones? I will tell you this. I was a geek. I was super geeky. I was bullied a lot in high school. Like I have stories where I was put in lockers. I mean, tried to light me on fire, like just really bad abuse. But here's the reality. I was only bullied from 9 to 3 p.m. When I left school at 3:30 and I hung out with my friends, I wasn't bullied.
Yeah.
I wasn't bullied at 8 p.m. at night. I wasn't bullied at 9 p.m. at night. So you know something? I was able to cope and deal with it. I'll be honest with you. If I grew up in this day and age, I don't know if I'd be here. Because if I had a cell phone and those mean kids were bullying me at 5 p.m., 8 p.m., 10 p.m., midnight, 6 in the morning, I don't know if I can handle it. And we as parents, we are putting our kids in a risk. Take away the phone. They don't need to live with the phone. They need to live with themselves. They need to reconnect with who they am. So take away the phone. And then my other piece of advice, and this will change your kids. Once a month, from Friday at 5 p.m. till Monday at 7 a.m., you do a digital detox weekend. Your entire family has no tech and no cell phone for 2.5 days. What will happen is you will actually talk. You will actually laugh. You'll actually play. You'll go outside and do something like play badminton or play a game or go for a walk. You'll actually reconnect as humans. You'll reconnect with your kids, and they will be different people. When I have friends of mine where their kids are either down or depressed, and I'm not a psychologist, I'm just a dad who loves kids and loves the next generation and loves people and cares about them. But I tell you, when parents go in, and it's a hard decision because your kids will fight you, but you just have them not have tech for one weekend a month, and their lives will start to change within months.
Yeah, I think this is so powerful. I actually do this with my children where, and I have to lead by example because I'm hyper aware of like,
Yep.
I'm saying one thing, and you know what's beautiful about children? They do not care about my feelings. They will tell me themselves, like I will say, like, we're not doing any technology, and technology is even the TV. A lot
Mhm.
of parents have to understand that that's another computer in your house. Like you think they're watching like CBS? No, they're watching YouTube. They're watching all these other things on cyberspace. So I'll say we're doing no screens and we're going to eat, we're going to talk, we'll pray together, do different things. And then I go grab my phone and they're like jumping on me. And I'll say to them, like, no, I'm working. They're like, I don't care. Put
Yeah,
it
we always
away.
have an excuse, right? We
I
always have an
know.
excuse.
So it's really great
Yeah.
because I do put energy into this and I am hyper aware. And what I can say to parents and to people, even friends, you notice a difference in the children. Like I can tell when they're wired a certain way. And then when I detox them, it's like you see them shift in their personality, which is a beautiful thing. Then that different self comes out and I want to nurture that. I want to make sure that they see that too. And if it's true for them, it's true for us. And even though we're not children, we're still human beings and we're so wired by what's going on here that we're not really talking to people, connecting with them. And what's beautiful about technology is that I'm having this conversation with you right now and I'm able to connect with you, but I want to give you my all the best that I can and not have distractions and not be like paying attention to other things. So I like what you say. I'm not a fan of the word balance, but I understand how important it is. And I understand that I, instead of using the word balance, I use the word integration. Like we have to integrate into things properly because balance is incredibly important. I just think people use it in a different way that I don't really subscribe to all the time. But
No, yeah,
we,
and real quick on that, because I agree
yeah,
with you, but to me the trick is
yeah,
most people view balance as a noun, which is a scale where
okay,
your things are equal.
yes,
I use balance as a verb, which is
yeah,
a pendulum. A pendulum is swinging back and forth.
yeah,
So you're never in the middle. You're always at one extreme or another, but you're in balance because the swing is momentum. So to me, when I say balance, it means you're out of balance, but you're in perfect harmony because you're that pendulum that's going back and forth. So to me, I agree with you. Balance needs to be a verb and not a noun. And then I think it works.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally agree with that. Because you know, in today's world, you're not going to get out of using technology. Like, and you have to be able to describe it to your kids, just like you were saying earlier. Like, you want to prepare them for the world, you want to teach them the dangers so that when they're confronted with it, they know how to navigate properly and in the best way. Just this is a great conversation. I think just getting this going, like, what is it that you do that helps society? Like, so that if I need to look into this more, how do I find you? How do I reach out to you? What is it that you are bringing to the world to make it a better place? Is it just the awareness? Do you go in and, change companies to have that conversation with them? What is it that you're doing to offer your services, your level of expertise so that you could make a company better? Is it also making a family better? What is it that I could tap into to make my life better?
Yeah, yeah, so I'm at a point in my life where I believe that it's not the companies you grow, it's not the money. I used to think that, and I've made a lot of money, and I'll tell you, money doesn't buy happiness. Contribution and helping people and changing lives is what makes you happy.
Yeah, I agree.
It's going in. I always joke with people, but I go in and say, people that say money doesn't buy happiness didn't give enough of it away. To me, I like giving away my time, giving away my energy. So if you go in and you follow me on social media, like Instagram, Dr. Eric Cole, DRERIC, COLE, or YouTube, I give away a ton of free content. I actually spend, my target is 5 hours a week I spend producing free content. I go to PTA meetings and speak for free. I go to churches and speak for free because I feel like you shouldn't have to pay to be safe. You shouldn't have to pay to keep your children protected and secure. So I give a lot of free information. I'm not here to sell any courses or sell anything like that. But on the other hand, you do need to help businesses and businesses pay for value. So I do go in and do cyber health checks for businesses. I do consulting. I sit on boards. I have books like Cyber Crisis. So it's one of those, depending on what you need, I'll meet you where you're at. If you want free information, just follow me on social media. You want to help keep your kids safe online. You want to keep yourself safe online. That's totally on me. That's totally free. I'll give that to you. If you want to take it to the next level and really integrate cyber into your business and have me come and spend time with you, we also do commercial consulting services, sit on boards, and really just try to help go in. And my whole goal, my mission in life, I believe my purpose for being put on this planet is to make cyberspace a safe place to live, work, and raise a family. So to me, anything I can do to help secure cyberspace is what I'm after and focused on.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it is awareness because a criminal isn't going to walk into an area where they know is armed and ready for you. Like they're
Yeah.
looking for those weak points, they're looking for those vulnerabilities. And for me, like that's really important that we have these conversations, that people know um that there are very, very great equipped people that are out there, like doing the opposite of what criminals are doing and making people more aware. And I'm blessed to be able to, like, give our audience this conversation with you and just all the great people that I connect with. I think that's what's making the world a better place, these conversations. Not just showing where we vacation and like what we're eating for lunch, even though, okay, that's fine every now and then, but it's really these conversations because this is something that people don't think about. So I just want to say thank you for dedicating your life to something so incredibly important, that we need to hear more about, and that you do it in a way that's really great and will probably save a life. That's the truth of it. It's not just financially, but there's a lot of things that we're doing out there that we're not aware of, and we're jeopardizing other people by doing that if we're not thinking about what we're doing. So thank you for that. Um,
Thank you. And thank you for giving me a platform to share my message. So thank you so much.
oh, you're very welcome. Thanks again.